Hi there, this is Craig Hain. My students call me Dr. Dell, and I want to talk to you on this video about the High School Mathematics Teacher's Guide. And this is all about how you can deliver a great high school math education to your students. And this is aimed at anybody that is teaching high school math, whether you are in a formal school setting or a homeschool setting. And let me first just review the table of contents of this guide. The very first section is entitled What's in it for me? And I'm going to talk to you more about that on this video. Then I have a section that says who is Dr. Dell, in other words me, and who am I, what's my background, and there's a pretty extensive description of that. And then in the third chapter or section, I'm going to talk about the triad of effective math education, and that is really the key to the whole thing. This encompasses my entire philosophy of teaching and explains what you have to do to be successful in delivering math training to a student, and it's the basis for everything else that follows. Then I will talk about the attributes of a good math teacher, in particular the pedagogy one should be employing in order to be successful, and that's one of the points of the triad. And then a very important part of the triad is the content. How you teach math is very much determined the outcome by the content you choose. And I'm going to tell you about what we call the Practical Math Foundation course and why that is so important when you're getting started with a high school math student. And indeed, I will give you a syllabus or a lesson plan for that particular course. Whether or not you would choose to ever use it or not directly, you might want to use it indirectly if you are a pretty good teacher and want to do it all on your own. In Chapter 7, I talk about the importance of a scientific calculator. I call it the power tool of modern math, and I explain extensively why it's important. And in fact, if you read my book, Teaching Math, I talk a lot more about that and other power tools in modern math education. And then I talk about what do you do when you go beyond the foundation. And we have a 10-tier program we talk about. And so this really then is a discussion about what the entire high school math curriculum for a really good student should consist of. And that's a pretty long chapter, and it gives into quite a bit of detail on just what I believe an entire math high school curriculum should consist of today. Then I have a chapter on resources I advise you on and refer you to. And then finally, I top it off with some final advice. It's about a 30-page teacher's guide. Now, let's talk about specifically what's in it for me, or you, in other words. If you read this guide, what are you going to get out of it? Well, first of all, I'm going to assume that you're a high school math teacher. Whether you teach in a formal setting or at home, you are wanting to teach high school math. Now, it may not be the case. Maybe you want to teach high school math, but you really don't want to do it personally. Maybe you just need someone to help you teach it to your student. Well, if that's so, then you've still come to the right place because, quite frankly, I can help you in either case, whether you want to teach it yourself or whether you just want to get someone else to help you teach it. So here's what's in the teacher guide for you. First of all, I'm going to share with you many things that I've learned over the years that I believe are crucial to being a good and successful high school math teacher. And I define success by the success of your students. You're not successful just because you can get up and give a lecture because you understand it. You're only successful in as much as your students understand it. That's my definition of success. And I've been doing this for decades now, and I've taught hundreds, probably thousands of students successfully. And so that's what I'm going to share with you, things I've learned. The most important thing, and I've encapsulated it in what I call the triad of effective math education. You can learn more about it on this website without even consulting this report, but I talk about it in this teacher's guide because, frankly, it underlies everything I believe. If you do not believe in the effective math education triad, then you're not going to probably believe anything else I tell you either. And I won't have much to offer you. Now, very importantly, I'm going to share with you the content of what I believe is an appropriate way for your student to get started, a foundation you must lay for them. Whether it's a weak student or a strong student, a slow learner or a fast learner, doesn't really matter. This is very, very important that you lay a good foundation. And indeed, I will tell you how to do that, and indeed, I will even help you do it if you don't want to do it all on your own. Now, one of the things that you learn in the triad, effective math education triad, is you must get their psychology right. If you don't get the student to where they like math, they enjoy math, they're not afraid of math, you're never going to succeed. That's number one goal, as I preach over and over. And so all of this fits together. A triad is like a three-legged stool. You can't take away any one of the stools. But the psychology, of course, is one of the three legs. It's very important. Now, you're going to actually, I'm going to explain to you why you, particularly if you're a homeschool teacher, have many advantages over a classroom teacher. It's very difficult to teach mathematics in a group setting, no matter how good you are. It's tough for anybody. I've done it all different ways, and I can tell you it's very difficult in a classroom situation for reasons that I explain in my book, among other things, and reasons you probably can imagine. Really, it has to do with the fact that students all learn at their own pace, and they have different needs at different times, and it's just very hard to meet that when you're in a group setting. Uh, Now, there's a caveat. If you're going to teach math, you've got to really know math. I just cannot imagine that you can be a really good math teacher unless you know math. You might be able to learn along with your student, and you might be able to get ahead of them and then teach them. And in fact, I've done that myself. But the facts are you're going to learn it first, and then you're going to teach it probably. Now, what's probably you're going to find out is it is not sufficient to just try to pick some math textbook and guide your student through it. A lot of teachers try to do that. They pick out a book that's been recommended by somebody, and usually it's a big, thick, expensive book on a subject, and they try to guide your student through it. That doesn't work very well, and even in the classroom, that doesn't work very well. In fact, you may have learned already that many math textbooks are really not ideal to teach out of for a variety of reasons. I'm not going to talk too much about it here, but in my book on teaching math, I explain why that is, how the system has evolved, and why I consider most modern textbooks really a detriment to teaching math almost as opposed to helping. I am going to tell you about a book that I do use in the upper tiers, not in the foundation course, but in the upper tiers to teach math, that I think is the best high school math book ever written. It's by a guy named Dr. George Simmons, and it involves algebra, geometry, and trigonometry all in one book. It's about 120 pages long, and if you know math, and if you're a good high school math teacher, this is a great resource. I recommend it to you very highly. And indeed, if I'm going to help you teach your student math, we're going to use that book in the upper tiers, but not in the very beginning. Now, if you don't know high school math very well, and a lot of homeschool teachers don't, I'm going to say unfortunately a lot of high school teachers don't, then I'm going to give you a recommendation that I think could prove to be what you might call your lifesaver or your student's lifesaver. And in a nutshell, it is the foundation course that you can learn about on this website. I have other videos on it that you can look at. And in fact, there are going to be several videos that are going to complement and accompany this guide, which I'm going to encourage you to watch. And now I'm going to finally make here's really the biggie, the biggest promise of all, as far as why would you even want to spend your time reading this guide. Well, here's the deal. If you learn and if you master the contents of this guide, then I can guarantee you that you're going to be able to provide your student an excellent high school math education. Almost no matter what is their ability, how fast they learn, no matter what their current psychological condition is about math, you'll be able to do that. Now, one of the reasons is, and I can assure you that modern technology is the key to this, it's going to let you provide your students with an excellent high school math education at a very reasonable cost, and that's going to be regardless of your background or your skills. You may be a parent or a homeschool teacher, or for that matter, a classroom teacher that needs help in teaching math, and there are resources today. I can provide you some of them. There's other resources I will tell you about in the guide and in my book. There's no excuse today not to provide them with a really, really good math education. Now, I don't know what resources you're going to need to purchase, and it's going to depend a lot on your own knowledge and skills and on your ambitions for you and your students. But this guide is going to help you select that. That's what it's all about. First, you have to understand what your goals are, what you're trying to accomplish, what your resources are, what you're capable of doing, and so on, and then you buy the appropriate resources. One thing I will tell you, there are a lot of resources out there. Some are free and some cost money. And what you use depends on really on your own situation. Now, you can get a free PDF version of this guide if you go to homeschoolmathematics.com. And I encourage you to do that, whether you're a homeschool teacher or not. Go there, but you'll join our Homeschool Mathematics Club, if you want to call it that, where I'll be communicating with you a lot of things about math over time and hopefully helping you become a better homeschool teacher. So this is Dr. Dale. I'm signing off. I invite you to get a copy of this guide. You can get a PDF version for free, like I said, and I will see you then on some future videos, I'm sure. Have a great day. Bye-bye.